For 40 years, the handgun world followed one simple rule. If your life depends on your pistol, you buy a Glock, a SIG, or a Smith & Wesson. A $300 pistol is a gun that jams when it matters most. But across Latin America, that rule is being broken every single day. The pistol in more police holsters, more security guard belts, and yes, more cartel trace reports than almost any other handgun in the Western Hemisphere is not a Glock. It sells for about $300. American gun stores spent 2 decades telling customers to avoid it. And while American shooters were laughing, it quietly became one of the most produced handguns on Earth. So I ranked the 4 biggest pistol-producing regions by how they actually performed across Latin America, not at the range. In the real market, where a pistol is a work tool and the nearest armorer might be 300 miles away. Number 4 will not surprise you. Number 1 absolutely will. Country number 4. China. The market that never showed up. When you look at almost every other product category in Latin America, China is everywhere. Motorcycles, phones, tools, appliances. Get the price low enough and take everything. That is the playbook. But in handguns, China is almost invisible, and there are 3 reasons why. Problem 1. The door was closed. Chinese firearms were effectively locked out of the American market back in 1994, and Norinco, the state manufacturer that could have flooded the hemisphere with cheap pistols, never built the civilian distribution network in Latin America that Chinese motorcycle brands did. No dealers, no importers, no shelf presence. Problem 2. No service ecosystem. A pistol is not a disposable product. It needs springs, magazines, extractors, firing pins. A brand with no local parts pipeline is a brand nobody stakes their job on. Security companies buying 500 sidearms for their guards do not gamble on a manufacturer with no regional support. Problem 3. Trust. In a market where a duty pistol has to work after 10,000 rounds of the cheapest ammunition available, an unknown brand with no track record is not a bargain. It is a liability. China dominates Latin American consumer goods. In pistols, they never seriously entered the race. That is why they are 4th. Country number 3. Europe. The right gun at the wrong price. Now this one hurts, because European pistols are genuinely excellent. The Glock is arguably the most influential handgun design of the last 50 years. Beretta has been making firearms since 1526. CZ builds some of the finest service pistols money can buy, and that is exactly the problem. Money. A Glock 19 retails for around $550 in the United States. But a pistol does not cross a Latin American border at retail price. Import duties, firearm-specific taxes, and distributor markups stack on top of each other. And by the time that same Glock reaches a gun counter in Brazil or Colombia, the real cost can land at 2 to 3 times the American price. In Brazil, historically one of the most heavily taxed firearm markets on the planet, imported pistols reached prices that would make an American shooter's jaw drop. For a police department buying 5,000 sidearms on a government budget, that math is brutal. For a private security guard buying his own duty weapon, it is impossible. European brands still own the prestige tier. Elite police units across the region carry Glocks. Special forces carry SIGs. But the prestige tier is not where the volume is. The volume is on the belt of the night watchman, the armored truck guard, the small-town police officer. And at European prices, that entire market is a conversation happening in a different universe. Excellent guns. Impossible economics. That is 3rd place. Country number 2. America. The heritage brands that price themselves out. And this is where the story gets genuinely complicated, because the American brands deserve serious credit before anything else. Smith & Wesson has been building revolvers and pistols since 1852. Ruger is one of the largest firearm manufacturers in the United States. known for building tanks disguised as handguns. Colt armed the entire Western Hemisphere for a century. Walk into any police station in Latin America 40 years ago, and the odds were good you would find a Smith & Wesson revolver in every holster. That legacy is real. It was earned. But two gaps opened up, and the American brands never closed them. Gap 1. Price. An American-made Smith & Wesson M&P or Ruger Duty pistol runs $450 to $600 before it ever leaves the United States. Add the same import tax stack that punishes the Europeans, and the street price in Latin America lands far beyond what the working market can pay. The budget option needed to exist at $300 on the shelf. After taxes, the American brands simply do not have a product that survives that journey at that price. Gap 2. Local presence. When your pistol needs a new recoil spring in a mid-sized Colombian city, ship it to the importer is not an answer. It is weeks of downtime for a working gun. The American brands sold into Latin America. They never manufactured in it. And in this market, that difference decides everything. American pistols are excellent, reliable, proven, backed by 170 years of engineering. But excellence cannot overcome a price structure that puts your cheapest duty gun at double the money of the alternative. That is why America is second. Country number 1, Brazil. The pistol that conquered a hemisphere, so who actually builds the $300 pistol sitting at the top of this market? Taurus. And before we get into the numbers, let me put a real worker's economics on the table, because this is the part that makes everything else make sense. A private security guard in Sao Paulo or Bogota is one of the millions of people across Latin America who carry a pistol as a condition of employment. His monthly salary is measured in hundreds of dollars, not thousands. His sidearm is not a hobby. It is a tool he is often required to supply or maintain himself. Okay, a $1,200 imported Glock is 3 or 4 months of total income. A locally built Taurus at roughly $300 equivalent is 1 paycheck. When a part wears out, a Taurus part is on a shelf in the same city, because the factory is in the same country. The Glock part is on a boat. That is the economic reality that built this market, not brand loyalty, not marketing, pure math. Now the scale. Taurus operates one of the largest handgun manufacturing operations on the planet, out of southern Brazil, producing on the order of 1 million+ firearms a year across its lines. In Brazil itself, Taurus is not just the leading brand. For decades, protectionist import taxes meant Taurus effectively was the civilian and police handgun market. Police forces across Brazilian states carry Taurus. Security companies issue Taurus by the tens of thousands, and the export machine reaches across Colombia, Peru, Paraguay, Central America, and deep into Africa and Asia. And yes, this is where the title of this video comes from. When American authorities trace firearms recovered from cartel-related crime scenes in Mexico and across the region, Taurus consistently appears among the most recovered brands, year after year, alongside the big American names. Not because cartels hold brand meetings, but for the same boring reason the security guard buys one. It is the cheapest reliable pistol in the hemisphere. It is everywhere, and it works. The most trafficked gun is always the most available gun. That is not glamorous. It is supply. 3 reasons Taurus won, where everyone else struggled. First, they built for the actual buyer, not the ideal customer. The question was never, what is the most advanced pistol we can engineer? It was, what can a working man in Recife or Medellin actually afford? And will it fire every time? The answer was a simple, polymer-framed 9mm with a manual safety, decent capacity, and a price under $300. The G2C, and later the G3C, are exactly that. Nothing more, nothing less. Second, they were embedded before the demand arrived. While American and European brands shipped containers across the ocean, Taurus had the factory, the workforce, the parts supply, and the government relationships inside the region's largest country. When Brazil loosened civilian gun ownership rules after 2019 and registrations exploded, Taurus did not need to enter the market. Taurus was the market. Third, they survived their own worst decade and fixed it. And this is the part most people do not know. In the 2000s and early 2010s, Taurus earned a genuinely bad reputation. Quality control problems, lawsuits, a settlement covering nearly 1 million pistols. The internet never forgot. But around 2018, new leadership tore the company apart, rebuilt quality control, modernized the factories, and started shipping pistols that gun reviewers, very reluctantly, admitted were good. The G3C started winning budget shootouts against guns costing twice as much. The brand that was a punchline became a value king. Now, a quick reality check. Glock is still the world standard for professional duty use, and no serious shooter disputes it. Elite units across Latin America carry European and American hardware, and cartel bosses famously prefer gold-plated Colts as status symbols, not $300 Brazilian polymer. The story here is not that Taurus makes the best pistol on earth. It does not. The story is volume. While premium brands fight over the top 5% of the market, Taurus took the other 95% of an entire hemisphere. That is the win almost nobody in America was watching. Why America refused it. So if this pistol dominates half the planet, why does the average American gun owner still curl his lip at the name? 3 reasons. First, Americans and Latin Americans are not talking about the same thing when they say the word pistol. In America, a handgun is a passion purchase. Forums, night sights, custom triggers, $200 holsters. A $300 gun reads as something you buy when you cannot afford a real gun. In Latin America, that logic runs backward. The gun you can afford, feed, and fix is the real gun. The $1,500 custom pistol is the curiosity. Second, the reputation lag. Taurus's quality problems from 15 years ago still dominate American gun counter conversations, even though the company that made those guns effectively no longer exists. Reputations are built in years and repaired in decades. Ask any Chinese motorcycle brand. Third, nobody spent money telling Americans the story changed. You have seen Glock in every movie of your life. You have never seen a Taurus ad campaign explaining the 2018 turnaround, because for years there barely was one. The irony that closes the loop. And here is the image that captures this entire story. In 2019, Taurus moved its American headquarters and manufacturing to a brand new facility in Bainbridge, Georgia. American workers, on American soil, now build the pistol that American shooters spent 20 years refusing, while it armed the working class, the police forces, and yes, the criminals of an entire hemisphere. The third world gun is made in Georgia. If one sentence captures the gap between how America sees the gun market and how the rest of the world actually lives in it, that is probably it. The window is already opening. During the 2020 buying surge, millions of first-time American gun owners walked past the $600 options and bought their first pistol for $250. A huge number of them bought a Taurus G2C or G3C, and most of them discovered something the gun counter never told them: it just works. The newer GX4 now goes head-to-head with the SIG P365, the darling of the American concealed carry market, at nearly half the price. Latin America did not choose this pistol because they did not know any better. They chose it because they understood exactly what they needed. A tool that fires every time, costs 1 paycheck instead of 4, and can be repaired in the same town where it was bought. The brands that understood that built the factories and stocked the parts shelves where people actually live, those are the brands that took the volume while everyone else took the trophies. If this changed how you think about the handgun market, hit like. It genuinely helps more people find the channel. And it tells me this kind of deep dive is worth making more of. Subscribe if you want what is coming next. I am looking at the budget brands quietly taking over markets most Americans have never even looked at. You will want to see it.